So hello everyone, we should be live. Today we have another episode of Late Night Talk with amazing guests. I'm gonna wait until a couple of more of you gonna come into the stream. And I also need a confirmation that all audio and video is loud and clear, guys. So if you can drop it in the comments, it would be really appreciated. We're gonna begin as always with a couple of news from my Fishroom, and then I already have our today's guest in a stream. So I'm gonna take him up to the screen and we're gonna have a chat. So I hope that you guys are excited. I definitely am. And I can see that the audio and video is loud and clear, so we can start. Hello everyone and welcome back to Late Night Talk. Today, as I've mentioned, we have absolutely amazing guest, and I'm super excited to talk with this gentleman as I've been reading about him many times, and now I finally had the pleasure to meet him, although it was only via this screen, but it was still super excited, and I'm really looking forward for today's talk. As always, I have prepared 10 topics, which we're going to be talking about, and in between of these topics, we're also going to have space for your guys' questions. So I hope that you're gonna enjoy this stream, and I hope that we ain't gonna run into any technical difficulties. So let me quickly begin with the news from my Fishroom. As you guys have seen today, I've uploaded new vlog video, which is gonna be in the link. The link is in the description below. There are some amazing vlog footage in the video, and I've been also talking about a couple of news from my Fishroom. So if you haven't seen that one, please make sure to go and check it out. We have baby shrimplets and approximately 5 pregnant shrimps. So we're soon going to have shrimp boom definitely in the Fishroom. And also, very exciting news, the cross between lazuli blue and snow white guppies had another drop. It was 13 babies. And actually, their first drops, which been 2 or 3 months ago, started to color up. And it's very exciting because from snow white and lazuli blue, the first male that's coloring up looks like it's going to be orange. So you guys stay tuned for that one as well. So, new aquarium that I've done. I've removed the sandfall because of a couple of technical difficulties. I'm going to be talking about those in the different videos. And once again, at the end of the video, you guys are going to be able to, you guys going to have the opportunity to sponsor some of my tanks. But we're not going to be spoiling the video with that right now because we have an amazing guest, Mr. Adrian Hernandez. Adrian, welcome in the stream.
Good afternoon, Patrick and friends. Glad to be here and glad for your invitation. Hope to contribute to the hobby, and let's see how it goes.
It's absolutely amazing that I can talk with you right now. I wouldn't believe that I would be able to bring you here into the show. So I'm really excited. As you know, we're going to go through a couple of topics, and then we're also going to be addressing several questions of our viewers. So let's begin with my first question, and that's introducing yourself a little bit because some of our viewers may not know you. So just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Well, Patrick, I came from Cuba when I was 4 years old and grew up in South Florida. I've been here all of my life, and it's been great. I got into the hobby when I was young, about 4 to 6 years old, catching tadpoles in puddles. After that, a couple years later, I bought a couple of Livebearers from a pet store, and they had babies. Everybody buys the pregnant ones, and that just was so amazing for me that it hooked me on. Later on, I would just go fishing and lakes and stuff like that, and it, evolved into a passion, something really nice. So that's how I started with tadpoles.
That's amazing. I've seen that you have a couple of awards for breeding to standard fancy guppies, to IFGA standards. So can you tell us a little bit more about that? I didn't know that you've been keeping guppies before Endlers.
Yeah, I started getting guppies when I was about 10th grade, 10th to 12th grade. I bought some nice guppies from the stores, and I had read a little bit about the IFGA, and I wanted to get some real nice guppies. So I looked around and I found a friend, Louis Tamarelli, that helped me find some top quality stock. My first real show guppies were from Paul Gorski. They were Gorski Reds and half black reds. I was amazed by those
Cool.
fish, and I bred them for a while. I joined a couple guppy clubs, and I started showing them for about 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 years. I don't quite remember. And during that time, my passion was the full blacks or 3/4 blacks back then. This about late 80s, early 90s maybe. And
That's really cool.
we would travel to the shows and stuff like that, and I would show them, and I won many awards, and I have a couple pictures. I just haven't been able to. They're in my website, but I haven't been able to locate them and give them to you. Or
yeah, the quick point, guys, all the web pages and everything are linked in the description below, so you can just go ahead and check Adrian's webpage, and also a Facebook link where you are quite active, like a lot. Like I've met you through that group, so Facebook group about Endlers is definitely working the best. There is a lot of pictures and a lot of discussions going on, so if you want to talk Endlers, visit the Facebook webpage. Make sure about that. Let me jump to another topic, and that would be, how did you get into Endlers hobby? How did you first find out about Endlers?
Well, when I was in the fish hobby, in the show IFGA clubs and stuff like that, there was a gentleman named Mark Weiss, discus breeder, very, very famous. And he had invited us to a warehouse to have a meeting at his place. And at the end of the meeting, he showed us around, and there was one small tank on the bottom that had some little wild fish. And he had said to us that some gentleman, Dominic Isla, and I think it was Dominic Isla and Klausman, something like that, were colleagues with John Endler, and they had given him those little fish, and he offered it to us. So I took a couple of them, and my friend took a couple more. I had read sometime before that they would not breed with guppies, and so I was like, oh, they look pretty similar to a guppy. Let me see if I can do some crosses and get some stuff going. So I did a couple crosses, and I learned that they crossed, and I started developing a whole bunch of half blacks, albinos, and snakes. Those were my first crosses with the Endlers I had from that gentleman, Mark Weiss. And I was amazed about that. And later on, I met Armando Paul, and he had some very nice fish that he collected in the lagunas, and he gave them to Louis because there was a hurricane coming. And Louis called me over and said, hey, I got these fish for you if you want to come and get them. They're from Armando. And when I saw them, I was like, wow, I didn't know Armando, was into this. I had kind of known Armando, just as a fish guy, but wasn't sure what he was doing. So I got in contact with Armando, and we talked about it, became really good friends. And he gave me some more fish, and he started telling me that he would go collecting in Venezuela, where John Endler had told him to go collect these unique fish. And we created an agreement that he would collect all these wonderful fish for me, and I would work with them and try to develop strains. And back then, it was like the whole beginning of the hobby. And I had sold on Aquabit a couple of Endlers, the first ones that I got. And so a couple clubs got interested, and they opened up a few forums, and they were inviting me into the forums to show the fish and the work that I had done and stuff like that. So that's pretty much how I got into the Endlers, the real Endlers, getting them from Armando's original collections and stuff like that.
Yeah. So Armando was collecting the fish in Venezuela, sending it directly and only to you.
yeah, the agreement was like that. You know, I sponsored Armando a couple of times, and he would collect them and call me and say, hey, I came over, you know, just this weekend, come to my house. I got the fish for you in bags. And we would sit down and talk, and I would be like, oh man, you know, wow, you know, but sometimes I was kind of new to them. I didn't know really a lot about them. And there was a lot of variations in the bags that he would give me. And I'm like, man, but this looks like feeder guppies, you know? But then when
Yeah,
I started looking at them, you know, carefully, that I would bring them home, and I'm like, oh no, man, these are like different. They're beautiful. They have these shiny colors, and the bodies are a little bit different. I was like, you know, blown away by how beautiful these fish were, because I knew what feeder guppies were, you know, and I'm like, no, this is no feeder guppy. So you know, it was just amazing. And then I continued speaking with Armando regularly, and he brought me fish several times. Back then, you could bring, you know, a little cooler with about 100 or 200 fish in a bag, you know, when you were traveling.
yeah,
There were no problems. This was like 97, late 90s, 97, 98, 99. And
yeah,
so he did very good. And I started putting those fish in large tubs to maintain them. And during that time also, there was a beginning talk about the lagunas being polluted, because when Armando visited, he told me that they had like a lot of debris on the edges of the laguna, and that it was not a friendly environment to go visit. And he said that
yeah,
he thought that they might you know, not be there very long. So I was like, oh wow. And then my other friend, Guy Smith, he was the original developer of the forum, Endlers or Us. He was like, Adrian, man, you know, like, let's get together and form something serious to try to preserve these little fish, you know.
yeah.
So we kind of started talking, and uh, yeah. So basically, Armando was collecting fish specifically for me under that agreement. He did it several times, and I think his last collection was 204. At
Yeah,
which time that he the policeman over there, it's when Venezuela was starting to get like kind of shaky. The
yeah,
policeman over there took all his equipment. You know, he had GPS and cameras, and
yeah, yeah, yeah,
they told him, you know, they were corrupt. They just wanted money. They
yeah,
took
yeah,
his, and he didn't go back anymore. That was one reason, and the other reason was that most of the time his job would send him out there, but he was kind of done already with you know, going out there and
yeah.
working with his job.
So
Late,
to stop you there for a little while, I'm gonna address a couple of people in the chat, and also I have a screenshot from your webpage with all the aquariums and the tubs that you have over there, so we can pull that one up, and you can maybe tell a little bit about that, or we can just show it and move to another category. So let me welcome all the people in the chat. Thank you very much that you came today and that you're watching us. We have HC Aqua, Tater Salade. Hello everyone. Basically OGs that are here every single stream. We have Poecilia Wingei saying, "Hi Adrian, grant my wish. Send your beautiful Wingei to Italy."
yes, yes.
So yeah, and then we have a couple of more. The Chubby Guppy, hey guys, hello everyone in the chat. So let me jump quickly to the picture of those tanks, because I was blown away when I was looking into your webpage. Once again, guys, the webpage is in the description below. So in case that some of you want to check it, just go ahead. Let me quickly find a picture of the tanks, and I hope that I'm going to be able to put it up to the screen. There shouldn't be a problem. Just give me a second. The connection is getting a little bit slower when I'm putting some pictures up, I can see. Okay, maybe we're gonna skip the pictures for now, because it seems like the connection is not able to handle it. Probably it's the StreamYard. So we're just gonna jump into another category, but we need to wait until this is gonna stabilize and stop lagging. Let me guys know in the comments whether the stream is lagging, because I can see it lagging. Oh, maybe we can put it up. So give me a sec. Sorry about this. Yeah, I cannot really get it up. I'm sorry about that. But I have another pictures of the fish that we're going to put up later. So let me get into another category, and that is classification, registry list, and original certificates. So for you guys that you guys just came, we're not talking about the modern Endlers that you can buy in the shops that are basically just hybrids with guppies, and or majority of them are hybrids and guppies or crossed with other Endlers here and there and everywhere. We're talking about original first collection by Adrian Hernandez and his original fish. Once again, the link is in the description below for the webpage. Now, there is, for Endlers, for people who are in the Endler hobby, there are a couple of things that came into mind, like first, and those are definitely classifications of Endlers, then registry list, and of course the original certificates. So can we maybe start with classification and introducing our viewers what classification of Endlers actually mean?
Okay, sure. The classification was designed so that the hobbyists would be able to know what kind of fish they had, because a lot of times they would go in the groups in the forums and post pictures and say, "Is this pure? What kind of fish is this?" So we thought about Guy Smith, and a couple of us thought about, what can we do to try to let people be aware of what they actually have in their tanks. And we got together and we came up with the classification of N, P, and K. N meaning native, pure strains. P, they look pure, but you really can't, say for sure. No background information on them. And K definitely looks like a hybrid. So we put that up, and below we put what each letter stood for. And hobbyists were very, happy with that. They're like, oh, okay, so I can label my fish N class, I can label mine's hybrid class, and make things a little bit easier instead of just saying, oh, I have Endlers, or
Yeah.
Asking questions. They're like, oh, mines were crossed before. I get weird ones, so they're K class. So that was very good. That's the reason for the classification.
Then there is a registry list, original registry list of N class that you still maintain. So can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Sure. What happened was during the very beginning in the first collections, I started isolating fish, and fish that had nice patterns, unique patterns that didn't look quite like the run of the mill, the common ones. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. I will pick out a couple of them and start line breeding them. I picked out about maybe like 28 types back then. And you can't pick like a 50 types or 100 types because you don't have enough tanks. I normally use about 5 to 10 tanks per strain, because you always get little variations that you don't want to eliminate. So you try to keep them going and line breeding those. So then back then, I had picked out about those 28 types and line bred them. They became established strains, and they were all fish from the original collections. I register them. Guy Smith helped me again. He was very knowledgeable about making websites understandable and friendly and educational for people. So he would tell me, hey, listen, we need to do this. Let's work on what we can do for this. So we came up with the registry, and we started labeling my fish. Okay, 1997 strain B. The registry also, one of the main purpose was for a couple of us breeders that were in the original forum to preserve and maintain these strains and these fish, because there was a lot of talk about pollution and losing the fish in the laguna. So these breeders and stuff like that, there was like 5 of us. Anybody, that would get fish, they would say, "Oh, I got my fish from Register Tampa Fishman." It's just an example. He was with us in the beginning. He's registered in the list. So there was like 5 original registers of people that maintained the pure collections and stuff like that. Later on, we find that a lot of people, it worked great. I want pure fish, go to the registry list. There's 5 main breeders there. Later on, these people that were buying fish from us, they're like, "Hey, how can I prove that my fish, are from you guys, that I bought them from you, that you're in the registry?" So we're like, okay, so I guess we're going to start adding names of people that buy direct from us, or obtain fish direct from us on the registry, so that when they talk to their friends and say, "Hey, look, my fish came from Tampa Fishman, or came from Adrian, or came from whoever, and his name is in the registry." So we would put their name down, and then they go, "Look, my name is there too," as proof that I originally got fish from them. So we did that registry, and it kept growing of people, that wanted to preserve and have the real deal fish from the lagunas. So we did that. It worked really good also. Then we had a certificate. I really didn't give out too many of them because we weren't sure if it was going to be a good idea to give the certificate, because we thought that people were just going to be making copies of it and making their own certifications. But so I didn't hand out a lot of them. But recently, throughout the years, there's been another bloom again of people that want certified fish, and they're always telling me, "Adrian, what proof can I show to the people besides the registry, that I got fish from you? Is there some kind of documentation?" And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to have to bring back the certificates and just, let it go, make it difficult for people to copy, doing a couple little things to it. And we added, I have a picture right here.
Yeah, that's the certificate of authenticity. I've seen pictures of those around the internet. That basically means that you have the original wild Endlers.
Right, that you got from me or whoever existing, is giving them. But from all those 5 breeders that were with the original collections, they all kind of like, left the hobby, or situations happened, and I'm the survivor. I'm the one handing out these certificates at the moment, and I did them very well. I put certificate ID per person, recipient's name, distributed by myself, strain ID, all these things that would be of value. And it's a very good thing, because later on, when somebody asks you, "Hey, do you have any idea of your fish?" Like, where did it come from? They can look up the ID in the registry list where the fish are also registered, and say, "Oh, my fish is a red chest. My fish is it came from Laguna Park North, or Laguna, and it came in 1997, and distributed by Adrian."
Yeah, and to tell you guys, we're actually going to be covering some strains with this information, where they've been collected from, when they've been collected from, and how they're looking. I have the pictures of them prepared, so we're going to go through some of them. Let me, Adrian, just quickly jump into the chat and read a couple of comments. So once again, if you just came, welcome in the stream. Today we have great honor of having Adrian Hernandez, the original developer, to put it that way, and perceptionist of Endlers, Livebearer, Poecilia Wingei. And I can see that in the chat there is many people talking that you have nice guppies. These fish are not guppies, guys. It's Endlers Livebearer. Although it looks like guppies and they can crossbreed with guppies, they're not guppies. So it's completely different thing, and that's what's cool about them, that it's completely different species. So let me see if we have some interesting questions, because I was entertained listening to you, so I wasn't really reading the chat. But we have Runafang in the chat, hello, and Logan. So welcome, guys. And we're gonna move to another category, and this one is one of the ones that I'm looking forward a lot So, Adrian, which were the original locations? Because we all know that they're coming from Venezuela, from several lagoons. But which were the original locations that original Endlers are coming from?
Okay, the original Endlers. I like to use the word Wingei because they distinguished Wingei from Endler. Endler is like the common name for any of them that could be a hybrid or a color class or
Okay,
whatever.
okay.
And Wingei would say that it's pure. It's the word that we use for pure. But the original ones were from Laguna de Patos, Laguna La Malagueña, which is actually one giant laguna divided in half. And then there was like a little stream and a couple, ponds in the surrounding area. But the majority of the fish that John Endler said they were unique and different, that he found, to be worthy of looking into, were from the lagunas. And that's where he directed Armando to go collect from Laguna de Patos and Laguna La Malagueña, that little area around there. So all the original ones that I have, the original collections, are from those lagunas. I have maintained those and spread them out, to make sure that I don't lose them. And that's their original origin from of the original collections and the fish that were of interest to John and Armando collecting and stuff like that, and to many of us, because John Endler is like, wow, he's phenomenal about his work and stuff, and for him to tell you, hey, go collect in this place, there's some interesting stuff in there, it's like, hey, let's do it, let's see what it's all about. So that's what he did, and we knew that there were in other places, but why go to other places when you got the gold mine, right there?
Yeah, definitely.
So
So it
that's what
was
we did.
actually, so the original ones that are in your collection are usually from Laguna de Patos, yeah?
Yes, all my original ones, I call them original collections, are from Laguna de Patos, Laguna La Malagueña. It's actually one giant laguna divided in half. From there, those are the original ones, the ones that most hobbyists, when you speak pure and original fish, they looking for that type of strains.
Okay, let me stop you there. We have a comment from Chewy Fish that's writing, I'm honored to see you and hear you on this stream, Adrian. The same here. I'm really honored, and once again, thank you very much for doing this. It's a real pleasure. We have comment from Alice. I love Endlers. Never owned any myself though, and that's a shame, Alice. You should get some. And then we have a couple of discussions going on between other people watching the stream. So let me move into another category that we're going to be talking about. And this we've already started talking about a little bit with where the original strains are coming from. And now we're going to be talking about actual original collections. So can you maybe name a couple of or talk about a couple of first original collections that came out? How did they look like? And like, I know that one of them was Red Chest and one of them was Black Bar, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, so maybe let's elaborate a little bit on the first original collections before anybody knew that some Endlers actually exist.
Okay, it was like 1997, 98, 99. The first original collections from Lagunas de Pato. And again, I say Lagunas Malagueña because it's really one large laguna divided in halves, and they call them two different names. Well, from there is where the original first collections came from. The original strains came from those collections, and I can name them for you, all the original ones. These are the ones that are in the hobby and that were first distributed to the hobby for hobbyists to have real deal fish. Wingei, Black Bar, is one.
Yeah.
Red chest. I'm starting by like the most popular ones. Black bar because
Yeah.
it's the one that John Endler collected originally. So everybody wants the fish he collected.
Yeah.
Red chest. They're very beautiful. Top yellow sword. Uh, Peacock, white peacock, center peacock, snake chest, uh, top blue sword, orange spotted, original peacock. It has a little dot on the tail with and a black bar sometimes. Most of these strains that I'm naming right now, they're in the page. You know, it's all original strains. You can just look it up. Yes, those are, and then there's a couple that I left out. I need to upgrade
Yeah.
the page a little bit and put those pictures. But all those fish that you see there, they're from the original collections. They,
So
I have,
these are the fish that has been collected in lagunas, yeah?
yes, correct. All those strains right there came from the
That's
lagunas.
that's absolutely amazing. Can we maybe elaborate a little bit on their collection, on their coloration? Because like the coloration
Right.
we're seeing on them, it's insane considering that these are wild fish. And as you've said at the beginning, it seemed like they're just guppy feeders. And when you look very close on these fish, this is the thing about nanofish and wingei in general, that you really need to like look close to be able to appreciate its beauty. So can we maybe elaborate a little bit on the coloration of them?
Sure. Okay, most of these fish that you see on there, they have the original look. There might be to the far right a couple that I have selected bred, like those red black bars that I have selected bred for the specific color. But the majority are just like that as when I first collected them, and I decided this is a beautiful, specimen. Let me make a strain from
Yeah.
this. The colors of these fish are just amazing. A lot of people say, "Oh, I have endlers in my tank," and what they actually have are wild type guppies. And when you compare the colors between the wingay fish and the wild type guppy, I mean, it's like day and night, But the
Yeah.
problem that people run into is that they have nothing to compare to, so they don't see the difference.
Yeah.
Uh, the colors from those lagunas, from those collections, pretty much maintain themselves as being red and black, with a little bit of green and yellow and other. But red and black is the basic color for that region, for that area. Um,
Yeah.
they have also, some of them have unique marks, like the red chest has that round monocle, the black bar has the long stripe. Uh, the swords are usually unique to each class. You have to look, at each type, and when you look at them, a couple of specimens, you can see, oh, I can see how this is a family or a strain, because they all seem to
Yeah.
have these familiar features, that they all share, of that strain. Uh, like I say, the colors, the amazing thing that about these fish is the metallic color that they possess. Uh, they're bright, metallic, and also they don't have blending colors like soft pastel colors. Many times when you have a hybrid, or you make some kind of cross with another type of I would say it's still a hybrid, another type of endler from another location. You get blending colors, pastel colors, and the original ones,
Yeah.
the pure ones, they have like like a definite break on the colors. Like the color starts here and it stops here. There is no
Yeah.
cloud, so that's one unique trait of them. That the sharpness of the colors, the brightness of the colors is just great, and the metallicness. A lot of times, the hybrid fish will have like areas in the body where it's kind of like dull and plain, missing the metallic. The original fish has a lot of metallic. Like
Yeah.
especially if you raise them outside in the sun, man, the colors are just amazing. Indoors, they're still beautiful and magnificent. But it all has to do also with a little bit of food. You have to take care of your animals. You can't expect to get,
Yeah.
spectacular from poor quality food and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the main differences between this and reticulata, the little wild guppies or other hybrid fish, is the brightness of the color, the metallics of the color, the the sharpness of the colors, meaning that they don't blend, and it's very rarely that you would find males that have long swords, like a whole strain of them.
Yeah.
Usually it's an indication that it's been hybridized sometime in the future. In the wild, I did find several, that had a little extended sword and stuff. But when you breed, let's say you get a couple wild fish now, and you breed a
Yeah.
population of them, and if he has a long sword, the majority will come out with short swords. It's a trait that you would have to breed for and take a couple generations to establish it. Um, I don't know. You asked me more
I
questions.
Yeah, it's amazing listening to you. I'm really impressed by all this information. While you've been talking, it came into my mind, and we also have some questions in the chat that I'm going to soon read. What comes into my mind is we've seen the picture of your breeding facility with all those hundreds of tanks and big barrels. How do you breed those, or how did you breed those fish? Did you have some kind of filtration, or were these tanks planted? Or how often have you been doing water changes and all these kind of things?
Okay, the indoor facility, the fish room, it has probably sometimes I have a little bit more tanks, sometimes I have a little bit less tanks, but the basic average is 500 tanks. Most of them, like half of the room, it's automatic water changes. The other half would be tanks or rows that I have added later on, and those I do manually. But I would do that like one row once a week, So, or maybe 2 rows once a week. It depends. If I'm not really busy, I take advantage and I try to do a lot of them. But the majority every day gets water changes.
Every day?
Every day, the old
That's amazing.
water and excess food and all that gets flushed out.
Yeah.
Have a blower, and some tanks have filters. Other tanks, I just keep them empty with snails. Snails are great for cleanup crew. Basically do is what I basically do on the inside is I do my line breeding, my research. When I get fish, I put them in a certain row and I study them for a little bit, then I throw them outside. So indoors is for line breeding and observation. Outside is where I maintain the large populations that I don't want to lose and stuff like that. For example, you would say collection from 1997. What I would do is I pick out a couple of fish from there and throw the rest of them in those containers. Those containers are like 275 gallons, and I don't have one container per collection, because I learned that if one collection goes bad, it's difficult to restart it again. So I usually have like 2 containers per collection. They also get automatic water changes once a day, or it depends when I open the valve. Usually once a day. In there, what I have is just assorted on the giant containers. What I'm talking about is assorted stock. The 55-gallon barrels are for line bred strains that I've already established. And what I do is from inside the room, I pick out like 10 or 15 females that belong to a certain strain, and I throw in 2 barrels or 3 barrels, one color, one strain of each. I always make sure I do more than 1 barrel, because if something goes wrong, I want to have a backup. So every 6 months, or when the winter comes, or once a year, I go through those blue barrels, and I bring indoors stock that I offer to the hobby. And I also look
Hmm.
through them to see, any surprises that might come out, like a variation of a certain type.
Yeah, some
And I
kind of
pick out my
anomaly or
new,
something like that.
right. I pick out my new breeders from there. And then again, I have all those nice large females that are fat and they're still young. I throw them back in the containers. And so that's the purpose of the blue containers. But at my sister's house, she lives in Naples, Florida. I have a couple containers over there, big containers, because I like to spread the fish out in case something happens. I've learned to
Yeah,
do
yeah,
that. So I have some fish over there when nothing drastic has ever happened to me yet. But I do every once in a while have
yeah,
a tank that isn't that great. So I have a couple backups, stuff like that. But the
yeah.
large tanks are for large populations.
Great. Okay, let's jump into the questions. And we have question from Jeremy Miller. Just a general question about when did you started focusing on genetics of the fish, and if you can recommend some kind of information where people can read something about genetics. So like good source of information about Wingei genetics.
Okay. The genetics thing. All if you are, I believe that if you are a hobbyist about a certain animal or plant or anything, you always get deeply involved, and you start to recognize traits and stuff like that, and perhaps you do a little bit of research, and you begin to wonder, what is passed on from one to the other and stuff like that. So that kind of was
Yeah,
like a normal thing for me, but I read a lot. I mean, during my youth, I will get those pet library books. Any information that I could get about tropical fish, I would read up on them. I was the genetics part came when I'm doing like the hybrids, interested in like,
yeah,
does this breed with that? Does this trait pass on? So it's something that you have to research. You have
yeah,
to want to learn it and understand it. Also, basic high school teaches a little bit about genetics.
yeah,
So I also did some research. I bred fish with a couple fish farmers, and I learned a lot from them that did genetic work.
yeah,
So the genetics came from throughout the years. It's not something that you just learn. Also, there's just so much about genetics. But anyways, I learned a lot about mollies, guppies, platies, just about
yeah.
a lot of fish. So
And we
I don't
also
know.
have another following up question. Maybe you can recommend a source good source for studying genetics.
Man, for the genetics of Endlers, there's not really a lot of information out there. But
Yeah,
I will try to get some books like from the 80s, late 80s and stuff
yeah,
like that, that deal with guppy breeding. Uh, there's a few of them out there. Maybe a
yeah. I've
couple,
also seen a lot. Yeah,
maybe
I've
a
also
couple.
seen some very cool ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you. Okay, I
No
think
problem.
that answered the question. And we have another question very closely connected. And maybe I'm going to try to transform the question a little bit because the question is from Alate. And it's, hey, Patrick, a question to Adrian. If a pair a pure virgin female from one strain, if you pair two pure virgin females from one strain to pure male from another strain, what will be the color of the males from this pair? And I know that we cannot answer this question because it depends on the strain of the fish. But can you maybe tell us one cross that you've done, and how did you
Right.
develop the fish?
Okay, so basically the way that it should work, but you can't, like you say, if you don't know the genetics of both specimens, both male and female,
Yeah,
the basic way that it works is that the males usually will transfer most of their traits to the other strain. Uh, It's not always the case, because sometimes a female may have strong genetics incorporated into her, which will dilute the traits of the Endler. And I'll give you an example. I have a strain of half black pastel guppies where they've been bred like that for many years. And when I get
Yeah.
the male Endler, an example would be a black bar or a red chest. I breed it to those females, and all the fish that come out, they're mud-looking guppy fish. None of them look like Endlers, you know. Only on the second or third F2 or F3 will I get some throwbacks that look back like Endlers. These throwbacks, usually you can tell that they're hybrids because they would have slight differences, like longer swords, faded color.
Yeah.
But they still look nice, you know. So you really can't tell when the best females to use when you want to transfer traits would be neutral females, and neutral females usually are wild type looking. They don't have color in the fins.
Yeah.
They don't have half black bodies. They're just a plain looking female. Feeder guppy females do very good, you know, when you want to experiment and transfer traits, you know, from one guppy to another. So that's about that.
So we have a couple of questions, and I'm sorry, guys, I'm skipping a little bit questions down. I cannot read all of them, but we have a question from Chewy Fish. How do you protect your outdoor Endlers from pests like dragonflies?
Okay, the dragonflies, there's so few. The fish are so many, and the dragonflies, I see them all the time, you know. But it's just a few babies that they would eat, you know. And plus, dragonflies in my backyard, they're good because they eat bugs and insects when they're flying around. You see them that they prey on other flies and stuff like that. But I don't, because of the large tanks and so many fish, it doesn't really affect me at all. The only thing that affects me would be like raccoons or frogs, you know, like the Cuban tree frogs. They reproduce a lot of tadpoles. And tadpoles it would be like 500, 100, you know, 1,000 tadpoles in one container when they hatch.
Oof.
And if you don't have anything that will eliminate them, they will grow big and eat a lot of your fish. So what I do, I have found that a goldfish, let's say a fantail, you got to pick the slow moving goldfish, the little fat ones, fantails, and those love tadpoles. You know, goldfish love tadpoles. So I usually have in a big container one goldfish. And whenever there's a frog that lays eggs, within 2 or 3 days, they eat up all the tadpoles. The reason that you want to use a short, fat tadpole, goldfish, because they're slow, right? But they won't. The tadpoles don't get away from them. But if you use like a comet or a koi, those are fast-moving goldfish, and they grow big. And they learn to eat your baby fish, and they catch them.
Yeah.
So comets and kois are no good for the Endlers. They will eat them.
Yeah, but that's amazing tip. I would never think about that. And we have follow-up question on that one from Chewy. What temperatures and water hardness do you use outdoors?
Okay, the temperature outdoor that is favorable for them is about 80. You know, I find that in the hot summer it gets over here like 85, 89, you know, stuff like that. In the water sometimes if the direct sun, but that's the temperature that they have the most amount of babies. You know, they grow the fastest. You do a little bit more often water changes. The lower range would be like low 60s. I mean, they'll live out there. But they slow down when reproducing, and the temperature that I have found that would kill them would be like 50 and below. But that's if you have them in small tanks. Let's say you have 10-gallon tanks or maybe a 20-gallon tank. If it's that low of a temperature for more than one day, let's say 2 days or 3 days, the endlers won't be able to live there. The large tanks, the endlers all go to the bottom, and the bottom temperature is usually pretty warm, and you can have them a week in low temperatures and they won't get affected. Of course, if it be below 40, you will get some dead fish because it's not their normal range. But I would say 70 to 85, it's a good temperature for them.
Great. We have questions, two very similar questions, and that is, if you are from Poecilia Wingei and the second one is from Marby, is there any favorite strain of yours or one particular strain that you're most attached to?
Okay, the first one is Poecilia Wingei, and the second one was what?
No, Poecilia Wingei strain. Is there anyone that's like your favorite that you're super attached to?
Okay, when I'm in the backyard and I go get a barrel and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go through this barrel, and I start pulling fish out and I put them in little containers and let's say a 2.5 gallon tank, 5 gallon tank, and I start looking at them. I'm like, man, it's beautiful. This is beautiful. It's like they're all so beautiful. And when I'm going through those fish and picking, I'm like, I can pick out about 20 males that I find them so interesting and that I would want to start a line. But that's like insane. You can't.
Yeah.
I would pick out like maybe 5 of them that I really like, but they're all beautiful. I don't have any particular strain.
Yeah.
The
That's
only
what I was thinking that. I was thinking that it's gonna be all of them because you have so many of them and they're so gorgeous. Like really, if I would be ordering fish from you and I would only have to choose 1 or 2 strains because I don't have any tank to hold more, that would be like the most difficult thing to do, I think, because they're really, really amazing. But that was a couple of questions, guys. So thank you very much. If you have some concrete questions, then feel free to post them in the chat, and I'm definitely gonna pick some up. And we've been talking about the original strains, the original ones that came in 1997, etc., etc. But there's been also some recent collections that I've seen on the Facebook page, and that you've been also talking about that there are some more recent collections of wild endlers. Can we maybe talk a little bit about those?
Okay. Let's say like from 2016 to about 2019, just last year, I've been getting some fish from the Cumaná area, and they're beautiful fish. They look great and everything, but they're not really the original fish from the lagunas. When you compare them, when you know that you're fish and you compare them, you're like, they're beautiful and they're outstanding, and some are very similar, but there's slight differences that it leads me to believe that there's integration going on from different populations, in the area. And my friends that collect them for me, they tell me, look, there's like, we think they're not really hobbyists. They're just people that collect them, and they show me ditches, and they show me street drainage and stuff like that. And they're like, a lot of these drainage and ditches and stuff like that, they all like kind of interconnect. They all routing the fish to the same areas. So with that information also, and when you're looking and staring at these fish, you're like, man, they're not exactly the same. They're beautiful. They have more variation with them. The Laguna fish all were pretty much, they were variable, but they all had a certain look to it, and now these fish are very variable and they have like a different look to them, meaning like they have a little bit more green on most of them. You find some that in the original, like that black bar with the white dorsal there, it looks like a black bar and it should be a black bar, but it doesn't really look like an original black bar. I don't know if you can do the comparison, but stuff like that leads you to believe like there's integration going on. Sometimes I am hesitant to label a fish from these populations because I'm like, man, this is a beautiful Endler. I'm not going to say 100% that it's pure, but
Yeah.
I leave it. I call it an Endler. I won't call it a Wingei unless I'm 100% sure. But there's still many populations, that have beautiful, magnificent fish, that anybody would be proud to have. They're just from a different time, in a different location. The populations that I'm talking about are from the Cumana area. And
Yeah.
if you preserve fish and stuff like that, you have to just keep them separate. You don't want to mix them, because then it's not anymore originals, or it's not the
Yeah.
new. Now you have like a mixture of animals. I like to say something also about the new populations. I have gotten some fish that you can say they are a pure population, they are a mixed population, or they are a hybrid population. The pure meaning that there's nothing in there that comes out of them, after you've bred them for a year or two in a large container, that doesn't look, pure. It all fits the description of Wingei. So those would be the pure population. Then there's some fish that you would get, and you throw them in a container, and you let them for 1 year or 2 years multiply abundantly. And when you go through that population, you find that there's fish that look pure, fish that look, questionable, and then you're
Yeah.
like, but they're not all questionable. Many of them look good, and many or some of them look questionable. So that would be a mixed population,
Yeah.
because still some fish are pure. Then you got the hybrid population. The hybrid population usually consists of the majority of fish looking hybrid. And reason for that is because it's hybrid producing hybrid and breeding with hybrid.
Yeah.
In the other cases, the hybrids do not, dominate the stock. So those are three different types of fish that can be found over there in Venezuela, in the Cumana area, that I know of.
Yeah. Great. We have a couple of more questions, and many of people in the chat were actually really admiring the idea of goldfish. That it's really amazing idea. So I think that it inspired a couple of people over there. Definitely. We have a couple of questions and before I'm going to address these questions, I just quickly idea that came into my mind that I think we've been talking about is the Laguna is quite big, and it's quite long time period since the first collection have been made. Could it be possible that the maybe the strains that been on the different parts of the Laguna somehow crossbred or something like that, or do you think that it may be caused by some other factors?
Okay, so I'll tell you a little bit of my findings. Again, my findings are always from research that I read, and friends that educate me on what's going on over there. So
Yeah.
if you look in Google Earth about 20 years ago, the Laguna was huge, and you
Yeah.
look at Google Earth today, the Laguna, it's like half dry, like you're like,
Yeah.
there's some spots, that are no longer wet over there. So
Yeah.
it's a big difference of that. So repeat the question. I want to make
Yeah,
sure.
if we've been talking that maybe the Laguna was really huge when the first collections have been made, and maybe the thing that there is less water and basically the area is getting smaller, can that be the factor that basically pushed the fish to push the populations of the fish to came together closer and hybrid that way?
Okay, no, my opinion is not. I think that the
Okay.
fish from the original lagunas, the patos and all that, they're gone. My friends tell me, hey, besides being very dangerous and difficult to get to them, the times
Yeah.
that they've been able to go by, they say that they may have seen one fish or two fish scattered around, but not able
Yeah.
to collect. And according to them, is very polluted. It's not good territory, and they were not able to catch any. What I think about the surrounding fish, why they're different, is because in the laguna originally they were isolated and they were huge populations of isolated fish.
Yeah.
And they all pretty much share the same traits. Back then, there was not a lot of rerouting of the ditches, of the sewers and stuff like that. And in the recent years, the outer edge fish have become mixed, and most likely from the rerouting of the city waters and drainage system. And that's pretty. Also, it's been like almost 20 years. Fish changed and evolved, because in one season one type of color may dominate, and the next season a different color may for whatever reason, different colors dominate and stuff like that.
Okay, we have more questions, and we have comment from Chewy Fish. Adrian, I wish your facility was located by me. I would literally volunteer to work there for free. And we have a couple of questions. How do you heat your outdoor tubs? Are you heating them, or in Florida it's not necessary, I guess?
No, I don't heat them, but when the real cold temperature, they say it's going to be like 40, low 40s and stuff like that. What I do is I wake up early in the morning, because the night temperature is the lowest temperature and the one that kills the fish. So I wake up early and I turn on my watering system, and the water comes out of the well. It's well water that I use. It comes out about 76 degrees Fahrenheit, so it quickly warms up the fish, the water. Then when the sun comes out, all the fish go to the top and they hang up in the top area getting sunlight. So that's how I keep them warm. But it barely gets that cold.
Yeah, we have, of course, in Florida. It's lovely to live there, I guess. I wish I would be living there. I could have outside tubs and stuff, not like here getting crazily cold during the winter. But let me jump to another question. How many times you feed your Endlers per day, and what type of food do you feed?
Okay, the basic day is 2 times a day, once in the morning and once in the afternoon. The ideal time, if you have a tank in your house, would be small feedings, like maybe 2 or 3 times a day. 3 times sounds good, but it's not a must. I feed first good quality flake food or food that I make, solid food. And in the afternoon, I feed live foods, brine shrimp or Daphnia or microworms or some kind of frozen or live food. The reason that I feed the dry foods in the morning is because they last longer in their bellies. And in the afternoon, you want to just feed them again just to please them, to make sure that they're hungry. Live foods goes through them really quick. So it would make no sense to feed the live foods in the morning. They'll be hungry in a couple of hours. So I chose that way.
Yeah, we have another very interesting question from Guppy Development, and that is, while your research, have you come across any different outcome due to different feeding in color or growth?
Okay, the only difference that I can really notice is if you don't feed good food, like not that great of a food, they will grow nice and everything, but the color is not that it doesn't come out that bright at you. When you feed a little bit of live foods and a little bit of frozen foods, their colors is just amazing, And if you grow your fish outside in the green water, man, they're even more beautiful. Sunlight and green water is spectacular for any type of fish. It does them well.
Yeah. Great. We have a couple of other questions. What kind of research do you do while developing a new strain?
Okay, if it's a wild strain, somebody that gave it to me or brought it new, or or something that I found in one of the containers or what have you. It's not really so well. The research goes into only fish that is brought to me. So let me refresh the question. But okay, when somebody brings me new fish, I will
Yeah.
look at them and decide what I think they are. If they look pure to me, okay, so I make a note of it. These fish are from this location, this date, and I will put them in a container, a large container outside, because nowadays I don't get 200 fish or 100 fish. I get maybe 12 fish, maybe
Yeah.
9 fish. I usually tell them to bring me females only because the females are already pregnant. I don't need the males. And what interests
Yeah.
me is that the females are going to produce offspring of fish that were in the population. So I'll let
Yeah.
them breed for about a year, maybe, and look at them. Within 1 year, there will be like, man, like I would say like 200 or 300 fish in a container from 12 fish. They grow fast
Yeah.
outside. Uh, I will look at them in 1 year and have a pretty good idea what the population is about. In 2 years, I am most definitely certain, what the population is going to be. If it's pure, if it looks hybrid,
Yeah.
if too many weird stuff is coming out, whatever. And then at 2 years, I feel confident that I can, sell it or offer it or tell you this is Wingei from lake number 5. They appear to
Yeah.
be good. Uh, so it all goes into a lot of visualization of what a large population looks like. Also, when you get these fish from outside, you sometimes want to cross them to see what kind of effects you have with known
Yeah.
pure stuff. And sometimes you keep on getting the same exact, look-alike animals, and sometimes you get quite different animals. And then you think again, well, it's possible that these are not really related, to the other stocks, even though they're by nearby population.
Yeah.
And the reason they're probably not related is because you're getting these hybrid type looking, offspring. So a
Yeah.
lot of little things like that you look into, it's, and then sometimes I have my camera and I try to take real close up pictures and try to see if there's any noticeable difference. A lot of times they have different body types. Sometimes they're long and slender from a certain population. Sometimes they're short and stocky. Sometimes they all have a certain red stripe, or sometimes they might have a feature, in the belly. They all have a
Yeah.
silver belly. There's different little things that you notice, that after looking so much at them, you recognize. But that's only in the big
Yeah.
population that you can do that.
Great. We need to jump to another category because we're over
Sure.
hour already. So we've already touched on this one a little bit. Are endlers getting extinct in the wild? We read it everywhere. It's getting way too polluted. Maybe the stock that we have is the only left because they are getting extinct in the wild. Is that true?
From my friends that collect and stuff like that, I would say I have not been able to get any more fish from the original lagunas. They tell me that they don't find them, that the lagunas are polluted, that there's predator fish in there that very difficult to get to. I have not, and I have not heard of any of the collectors when I talked to them originally that frequently post on Facebook pictures of wild collection. None of them was able to certify to me that they collect the fish from inside the lagunas. It's always the surrounding areas and stuff like that. And so I said to a couple of people one time, listen, it's inside your house is different than your front yard and your backyard, So
Yeah.
you cannot say that the fish in the surroundings are the same as what was in the inside. Also, the time
Yeah.
difference, almost 15 to 20 years, you may not
Yeah.
have anything similar to what used to be there. So for sure, in my belief, from what I've heard and seen, and people show me pictures of, the original stuff is gone. The original Cumaná Lagunas and Malagueña is mostly salt water, and I've seen pictures of it that they sent me where it's dried up.
Yeah.
People tell me that other lakes in the area have been dried up, so a lot of that stock is gone. It's no longer to be found. But the surrounding areas, there's a lot of ditches and canals in Cumaná everywhere, in the city.
Yeah.
There's other populations of fish, some pure, some hybrid, some, but the original ones, I would say they're no longer to be found.
Thank you very much. We have question from Chewy Fish. What do you do with your calls? With the fish that you select out?
I usually have a large tank, and I throw them in there. And when kids come by or people that want to get in the hobby, I offer them those fish. I give them some, and later on, if they want to really get serious and they ask me for other stuff, I give them other stuff. But I start people off with the coals and kids, and whenever kids visit, they're like, I want some, I want some. So, or
Yeah, that's amazing.
sometimes when I have a lot of nice calls, I would take them to the pet stores. A couple of these little stores, they ask me, and I'll trade for food, or something that I may need. That's pretty much. I don't like to send out calls in the hobby, because sometimes people are expecting, something different, and I tell them, listen, if you really want nice fish, get pure fish, or get a strain of fish that looks nice. You don't really want calls, because calls, anything can come out, or you might not think that are what you thought. So it's usually kids in the pet store that I take them to.
Okay, we're going to address one more question, and then we're going to jump to another category. Thank you very much, guys, to being around, and welcome everybody new who just recently came. So we have question from Guppy Development again. While keeping the fish outdoor in the sunlight and in green water, doesn't it affect the coloration of the fish? And I think that we've actually touched on it, that it does, and it makes it better if it has the sunlight, right?
Correct. It has an influence on the brightness of color and the shyness. They're and the health also. They do great outdoors in green water with sunlight.
Yeah, so it's definitely a go. If you have the opportunity to put your fish for the summer out to the sun, you should definitely do that, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. Great. So we're gonna jump to another question, and this category is actually gonna be pretty nerdy and concrete. So right now we're jumping into two strains that I've picked up that are one of my favorites, and I follow them for a little bit, and I think they're also one of the most known in a hobby. So now we're gonna talk a little bit more details about these strains. So we're gonna begin with black bars. Can you tell us a little bit more about black bars? Where exactly they've been collected, when they've been collected, and just a little bit more details about them, because you're the one who introduced them to the hobby. So it would be really interesting to find out where these fish actually originate from.
Okay. Originally, that's the type that John Endler talked about and collected. So there's a lot of fame because of that. My original black bars were from that gentleman, Mark Weiss, and they were supposedly somehow linked to stock that John or Dominic Isla had worked with. I had those for a little while, and they were black bars. I had them for like a year or so, and I bred them, but they were kind of weak. And then when Armando started collecting fish for me, like 97, 98, I found a couple black bars in the collections. And so I said, oh, these are fresh new fish. Let me start breeding these. So those original ones I gave away, why keep them when I had new stuff? And they're from the Laguna de Patos, the black bars, 97, 98. They were in each collection. He would bring me back, a couple of specimens that looked like that. I started line breeding them and selecting, color variations, like the ones that have a little bit more
Yeah.
blue, a little bit more red, or a little bit more uh, green. But pretty much I always kept from the original Wild Collect ones uh, little populations that I would throw outside and let them do their thing, once I established them. Uh, and they would just keep on breeding among themselves, more look-alike fish, because I already had, selected a couple of them with a few females. So
Yeah.
originally, the black bars that are circulating the hobby were introduced, I would say, like maybe more than 15 years ago, when I first started
Yeah.
offering fish on Aquabid. When I started offering fish on Aquabid, I think 2000 or 1999. I forgot, in
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
very beginning, uh, I introduced those. I sent them to Germany. I sent them to Japan. I sent them to Australia. I used to send a lot to Asia, and since they were the most popular, they spread out really quick, uh,
Yeah, now
and
we
they
can see them
maintain.
in all the fish stores and all the fish shows everywhere got them. But it's really interesting that it actually it all comes from your fish room. That's really amazing.
Yes. One more thing about the original ones. The original ones, when I obtained them and I would breed them in large quantities and stuff like that, no white dorsals. They never had white dorsals, and if they did, it would be like a slight mark, but never any white dorsals. So I
Yeah.
learned, throughout the years, that no matter how large your population is, they don't throw white dorsals. The only time that they throw the white dorsal is when you hybridize them or you introduce something
Yeah.
else, that's not from them. Then that little white mark that you see there, it gets enhanced when you do the hybrid cross, and it bleeds into the dorsal fin, creating a
Yeah.
bigger white mark. It doesn't necessarily have to have that little mark to get the white dorsal, but the white dorsal, from all the breedings and all the hybrids that I did, it's a mark of hybrid stock. It's not just me, the one that did these experiments, but other friends that bred them, they would tell me this: we find the same finding, the same thing. And when you see people that have pure black bars, none of them have white on the dorsal. If you track them down,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, my finding is like this. So that's just a little added information. uh, Now, the recent populations, that's why I'm a little bit saying that there's integration going on. The recent black bars that you see some people post or that I have obtained, some of them have that white, black dorsal fin. And the fish is slightly a little bit different in appearance. So I'm like, okay, they're still beautiful and all that, but there's a sign of more integration, more mixing of strains and stocks and populations on the recent
We
fish.
also have a very interesting picture of your red black bars. So I'm just gonna pull that one up, and this is something you've just recently posted on Facebook, and you're quite frequently posting these fish on Facebook. Once again, guys, if you would be interested in original collection of Adrian Hernandez, the webpage is in the description below, so you can just jump in and look into the original collections. But can we maybe talk a little bit about these beauties, because I have to say that I'm absolutely in love with those.
Okay. Most of my strains, I developed them way back. When I first got the fish, I started line breeding. For colors. I started selecting for traits, and the red ones, I thought that they were kind of nice, and I continued to line breed, and it usually takes me like 2 years to establish a strain. After about
Yeah.
2 years, from the wild collect fish, I had these beautiful, spectacular red fish that bred pretty much true. I also did some experimental crosses with other strains from the same collections, like that red top bar, which is a little bit similar but different, to see if I can transfer, colors from one strain to another strain. I was able to do that, but the best results for me have always been line breeding, the pure animals. When
Yeah.
you begin to outcross, you get, different little features that may not resemble the original fish. So I like to keep them original looking, but with the new colors, and it's a line bred strain that I developed. Like most of my other strains, I will get variations of little fish. Like one comes out a little bit more yellow, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. So I
Yeah.
start selecting for yellow, and I'll develop a strain like that.
That's absolutely amazing, I have to admit. And we have another question in the comments from Chewy Fish again. When we order from your website, do you personally pick the fish and send it, or does somebody else do it?
Okay, this is the thing when people order from me. Sometimes I have limited stocks for whatever reason that I don't bring a lot in, or what have you. I'm very busy, but usually you'll tell me, hey, I want some red black bars. Then I'll go to my fish room, and I might have a tank with about 20 pairs in there, or 10 pairs. And then I say, okay, I can send you some, but I'm not going to select the best fish in the tank, meaning the most bred and the most red. I will select nice fish that they all have, red on them and stuff like that. And the reason that I don't do the specific picking is because some people are like, can I have one with a dot on the tail? Can I have one with a little bit longer? So, and I'm like, man, I'm not going to please you if you're asking for such specificness. This is my strain. This is what I'm going to
Yeah.
send you. You have lots of babies. You pick your dotted fish or your fish with the little. I tried my best. If I find one, I do it, but it's not something that I like to do.
But it's you who, but it's only you and nobody
Yeah,
else
it's me.
messing it
There's
in your
nobody else.
tanks.
No,
Yeah,
it's
it's
me.
only you.
I'll go back.
That's really impressive how you can control such a large amount of tanks. Like I have to admit, I have only a couple of tanks, and I'm like busy with them. It's amazing. Like literally, I really admire that. We have a comment from Cheryl, and welcome in the chat, Cheryl, that she has some with white dorsal black bars. So that's most likely going to be some kind of cross on a way from the original strain.
Most probable.
Yeah.
Go ahead with the question.
Yeah, that
Oh,
that
that
was
was it.
my
Okay.
yeah, that
Okay.
was my
Uh,
comment.
this is what I find, and how when hobbyists ask me questions like that, is my fish pure? Okay, so I'll say to them, I cannot tell you from one fish. You have to show me, several fish in your tank, so I can see, what they basically look like and what traits they share, and try, if you have some background information, who you got it from, when you got it from. It can help, because I can say, oh yeah, I sold to that guy 3 years ago, and they look pretty much the same as when I sold them to him. Or they'll say I got them from the store, and then I'm like, okay, so basically there's no idea here what they are, so we'll go by a visual. And when I go by visual and stuff like that, it's just a guess, educated guess. And I
Mhm.
try to point out, because your fish have one trait, let's say a white dorsal. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's a hybrid, but most likely it is. When several of your fish, that's why I want to see several of them. When several of your fish, one displays a long sword, another one displays a little bit of white on the dorsal, and then another one is, it's like, all right, but I'm like, okay, one strike is the white dorsal, another strike is that long sword. That's already two traits of a strain, possessing. And if I find another fish with something else that is questionable, I'm like, definitely you have hybrid, because too many strikes in your strain. I could understand if somebody bred for white dorsal, then all the fish would have white dorsal, but they won't have long swords, or they won't have color missing, or it would just be the white sword. So I can say, okay, if you claim that you have selective bred for that, then it's possible, but you know, without any real information who you got it from and how they kept them, you can't never really tell. So, but basically, the white dorsal thing is hybrid stock. The extended swords, many people show you these beautiful fish, and the majority have different length of the swords. It's like, well, that's another hybrid trait. One fish can have a long sword, but so many fish in the colony to have variations of long and short, it's like, nah, it's not. So I tell them, listen, go to my page and examine the fish that I have there and compare. You compare and then you make a guess.
Yeah, it's like it's super like we're talking 20 years of development almost, so it's like when we're considering that the fish is breeding like every 3 months or something like that, and has drops in adulthood every month, then it's hundreds and hundreds, if not millions, of fish going on, and like trying to find that original strain is almost impossible right now if you're not really taking it from you who know that, yeah, in 1997, I've put this fish into this bucket and it's still in there. There was not a single other fish going into touch with them and stuff like that. So it's definitely very, very difficult to finding out the real proper original strains. And that was what I've made a mistake on my channel as well, that I've called one of the strains that I was working on in Slovakia with one of my friends as Class N. But they probably were not, because they definitely had some extended top swords and a couple of other features that are just not Endler features. But because it was the strain like black bars, I obviously thought that it's immediately Class N. But as long as there is just a little bit of guppy integrated or other strains, it's already not a Class N anymore, right?
Right, and this is what happens a lot. Some breeders would get would use the black bars, the most common. They will get some black bars and breed them to some snakeskin females because they want to create a snakeskin black bar. So during that cross, usually the first generation will produce some black bar wild type looking fish and some snakeskin looking fish. So this guy is interested in the snakeskin looking black bar. He will continue to breed his snakeskins, but the ones that look wild type, he will sell them as pure black bars. You see? So then the people get them and they're like, oh, pure, that. But they're not really pure. It's, they're already, once the genetics are mixed in there, there's no going back. I'll give you an example of that. I have a ditch, a sewer ditch in the front of my house. When I first moved here, like 22 years ago, something like that, I had fish in my garage and I had some Endler hybrids and stuff like that. And when I would drain the water, some will escape, from my tanks on the hose, and I would drain it to the sewer in the dirty water. And there was a tank that I would regularly, not wanting to, but they will go, little babies will go. It was a hybrid tank of black bars and gold red guppies, fancy guppies. Just crosses that I was doing. Those fish have remained living in there for these 22 years or what have you. Every rainy season, that gutter floods and all the fish are in the streets. It's amazing. I'll collect them every year and look at them, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. But those hybrid traits of the white dorsal, the extended swords and all that, in the 20 years that they've been breeding among themselves, most of them look like, like wild black bars, but with the hybrid traits. They have not gone away. The traits became part of their genetic makeup. So, and I've also read that once you do that, you replace genes with other, you add information. It's not the same. It will never be the same.
Definitely. We have comment from Cheryl again that she's seen your pages and was actually the first pages that she found or came across when she was checking her strains. So that's pretty amazing. And yeah, Cheryl, this is the man who introduced the fish into the hobby. This is the man who sent the fish all around the world. So it's real honor having you here, Adrian. We're gonna jump into another strain that I wanted to talk about, and that was a red chest. So red chest is another one of your original strains. Can we maybe hear a little bit about this very interesting fish?
Okay, now I'm gonna tell you why it's so interesting. This one and the black bar, because when you breed the red chest, when most people want to produce some hybrids, they will get the red coloring on the hybrid, as like F1 or F2. So they usually get a red chest with what other traits they have added. Like it could be a snake skin, it could be a fancy tail. So it's a very good strain for outcrossing because you can definitely tell it's going to be a colorful hybrid fish, and most of them are just spectacular looking. The red chest has 3 sister strains, meaning that a red chest is the original, then the double red stripe, and then the snake chest. From a red chest, you can get double red stripes, and from the double red stripe, you can get snake chest. All 3 are related, and the main feature that ties them together is that round, large monocle that they have right there on the side. All of them display that. All of them have the same short body, and each of those variations will breed true, but occasionally, producing one of the other variants. It's a very, very colorful fish. The double red stripe is the one that I kind of like the most because it has the most color variation, and they can come with a little bit of more green, a little bit of more yellow, a little bit of more red. The stripes can be very long or can be very short. Um, they're just amazing. The red chest is spectacular because it could be a completely solid red fish, and it has a
Yeah,
lot of red on the front of the
yeah,
body.
yeah. Yeah, many
Uh,
people in the chat are also like that. It's absolutely gorgeous looking fish, and we can also clearly see that there is also a red coloration in the dorsal fin and also in the tail fin. So that's very interesting as well.
yes, and if you see what I talk about, the colors that they don't blend, they're not like a shade that the red blends with the green. That they're
Yeah,
defined marks, like a red stripe period and a green mark period. Again, on the dorsal, the same thing, a black marking period. It's not like a faded dorsal with
yeah,
a blending black. Uh, they're just spectacular. That's an excellent fish to hybridize if you like to create, hybrid strains. Um, they're
you
again
still keep
collected from
original stuff.
the yeah, they're again collected from the Laguna de Patos uh, early collections. Um, you could still find some of these thank you, some of these color variants or types in the surrounding areas of Cumana, but again, I won't say that they're the same exact animal. They're very similar, and unless we do some DNA testing and stuff like that, we cannot say that they're the animals from the laguna that got out into the ditches. But this is an original fish, and it produces, fish that are very similar in appearance. And all the original ones that I have bred and all that, they constantly produce, similar fish with slight variations. It's not like one
Yeah,
class produces something weird that popped out, and no, none of that. I've been sending fish out for like 20 years, and if you got red chest from me, that's what you're gonna get, and possibly maybe, like I said, a couple double red stripes or a couple of, but nothing else. And you can
yeah, yeah.
always pick, color variants, but this is an amazing fish also.
Absolutely gorgeous. Once again, guys, this is just two strains that we picked up for the purposes of the stream. There are many other original pure strains that Adrian has in his collection. The web link, the link for his webpage is in the description below. And we're gonna jump into the last category, so you guys have the last opportunity to ask any kind of questions. I'm not promising that we're gonna be able to answer all of them, but we may be able to answer some. So this is your last opportunity to ask questions. And let's jump to question that's very interesting for me as well, and I'm definitely sure that many people are also going to be wondering about that. And that is, give me a second, getting the original stock. So how difficult it is to get nowadays and hold of actual original Endler, because as we've been just talking, they're in a hobby now for 20 years. As you've said, they may have been crossbred with one breeder 5 generations before you didn't even know about it, and you may end up with not pure strain. So it is really, really difficult to find out the original the original fish, the original collections. So maybe this is where the registry may come handy, or this is where people should just order from you, and that will be the most secured way. Or what would you say? Is it so difficult to get the original stock nowadays?
Okay, man, the fish where you can get original fish from the lagunas easier would be, of course, through me or through some breeder in the U.S. Most of the
Yeah.
foreign strains have been uh, hybridized and stuff like that. But like you say, the registry plays a big role in that. And I registered just about in my books. I have a list of people that buy fish from me. Anybody that buys a fish from me goes down in my books, and I keep the receipts when I mail them, and I write down the tracking, stuff like that. So let's say that you are in Germany and you're looking for some pure fish. Good luck. but but you can say, hey, Adrian, do you know anybody in Germany that you sold fish to that perhaps they might have kept them pure? Well, if you join some of the groups, you would see that there's still a couple of old time breeders, people that took the hobby kind of serious of maintaining their stuff, and I could say, hey, listen, there's a guy. This is just an example. A guy that had purchased from me some red black bars, and he lived in this city, and I sold it to him about 15 years ago. You can contact him. I got his email and his address and information, but I would just try to get you his email. I'm not going to give you his other information. You get that from him, and you can try to contact him, and he might be still around in one of the groups. I will tell you, he bought it from this date and this place, and he bought blue swords or whatever. Talk to him. The guy might say, oh yeah, I still have them around, or I lost my stock and I got new stock from somebody else. But there's still a couple of people that may have some of that. I know a couple of serious hobbyists in different locations, and every once in a while when somebody asks me, I say, hey, listen, contact this person. This person is a serious person. They have nice fish, and talk to them. Maybe you can get fish from them. Otherwise, you always have, and when you're getting these fish from them, tell them to send you pictures, and then you send me the pictures, and I can tell you, hey, they still look pretty much like the real deal. I would go for it. The guy's trustworthy, and he got them this time and this long ago, and that's the best that you can do, unless you want to try to come to the US or have somebody in the US obtain fish from me. uh it's not that that you want to be the only one or in charge of having a certain animal, but in the very beginning, I want to make a couple of things known, and I've posted several times. In the very beginning, I sent several hobbyists up in Netherlands, lots of fish, and they were to distribute them. And I sent to when in the club, I had 600 wild endlers collected in our club, and they were distributed between about 5 or 6 people, individuals that were going to be preserving and stuff like that. Most of these people are gone. They're no longer around, and I have been the only one that has been passionate to keep these strains and to keep the the purity going. And it's been because of a love for the development, of the animal. It's like my baby. So
Yeah.
you know you want to get some real stuff, get it from the source. Questions asked. Like, did it go through John? Did it go? How do I? Hey, listen, they are the original fish from the lagunas. I maintain them. Uh, they're my babies. My hobby, my passion, and I'm very proud of it. I want to tell you that it's not a money making thing for me. It's a passionate thing. And a lot of people would say, "Oh, he just wants to sell fish." It's not that. If you want to be that way or whatever, then you can go to Venezuela and try to collect the fish. But I do it as a love for the hobby. Like, if you breed cats and dogs and you develop these beautiful long-haired cats, they become your baby. You're like, "Oh, this is my
Yeah.
work. I'm so happy." I'm like, let me share it with the world, with people that have the same interest. So that's my whole goal behind the preservation thing, and the passion of having all these tanks. I like to say that there's a lot of money that you have to spend when you keep this amount of fish and stuff like that. Uh,
Yeah.
so, I'm just telling you that because some people would think that he's just a salesman, like, sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
not just
We
a
we
salesman.
who we who are we who are in Endlers really deep. We really know who you are, and I have to say that we have several people in a crowd. I can see that there are only a couple of people actually active in the chat, and we have approximately 30 viewers throughout the entire stream. And there's going to be much more people who are going to watch this stream after we're going to finish, and it's going to be saved on YouTube. So when I told that I'm actually going to be talking to you, many people are like, "Oh man, I really need to see that. I wish that I would have this. I wish that I would have fish from him, because you're the name. You're the person who introduced them into the hobby." And I can see that we have couple of comments from Cheryl that I managed to get wild El Tigre from UK, or who bred the Japan Blue. And this is the thing, like the Endler hobby expanded, Cheryl, so much that right now you have hundreds, if not thousands, of different varieties of hybrids. And it's just very difficult to say like whether that breeder is still somebody connected to the original source, or who developed that particular strain of K class. Because, like, once again, Adrian, you've said you've sent the fish to Japan, you've sent the fish to Europe, you've sent the fish all around the world, basically to Netherlands, etc., etc. And like, many people just kept continuing working with those fish and developed their own strains. And once again, we're talking about 20 years of development. So there is definitely a lot of new strains and newness, and maybe strains that we can be talking about for a very, very long time. But today, and the main reason and the main purpose of today's live stream was to talk about that original fish, that fish that was collected in 1997 to 2004 or something like that, and basically that exploded the entire excitement about Endlers, Livebearer, or Poecilia Wingei, to put it that way. So I think that will be it today. That will be it for today, Adrian. It was my honor having you here on Live Talk. Is there anything else that you would like to tell our viewers?
Well, I'm very thankful for you putting me out here and for me to be able to tell my story, like how it kind of like started. And I'm very thankful for all the support of the hobbyists that I get emails all the time, complimenting, the fish they got or how beautiful or my work and stuff like that. All that keeps me going, it's like inspiration, to know that you are doing something that other people enjoy and share with you, same passion. So I thank, a lot of these hobbyists. And I like also to say that there's a lot of wonderful people that contribute to the hobby. It's not just me, other people that do their own thing, and offer beautiful fish also, whatever, they may be, or whatever they work with. But I am grateful that you put me on the show. I enjoyed it, and I hope that in the future I can contribute other information that will help hobbyists better understand their fish and how to work with them, or how to distinguish, or stuff like that. I also want to say that I did to the best of my ability. My first live stream like this made me a little bit kind of nervous, giving information and stuff like that. I kind of ramble on a little bit, always. So I may have gotten off topics and all, but the basic idea, was there. The original collections of beautiful animals, and worth having and maintaining. And that's what we talked about today. Another day, I guess we can talk about other collections and other strains and other breedings and stuff like that.
Once again, guys, I didn't say it one single time during this entire stream. Hit that stream with the like button if you want to see Adrian to come back. And once again, I will do my best. It was really crazy. Like I've heard your name, and I've just found out about you from my passion in Endler and Poecilia Wingei, and then all of a sudden I just tried to write you on a Facebook, and you responded, and here we are. We've tried it a couple of times, and I have you here live, and it's my absolute pleasure and honor. I really hope that I'm gonna meet you at one point. I need to read a couple of these comments for you, Adrian. As you were saying, that the support of the people is what's keeping you going, and I feel kind of the same way when I get positive support. So I need to read these comments. And we have Kai Holiday. We can see and hear your passion, Adrian. Cheryl, massive respect, Adrian. K Holiday, thank you very much. HC Aqua, great stream. Thank you both. The Chubby Guppy, thank you very much, guys. Great show. And the Chubby Guppy super chatted $20. Thank you very much, Chubby Guppy, for that. You've had amazing questions. And again, guys, you've had amazing questions throughout the entire stream. I'm sorry I didn't read some of them out. But the thing was, today we were focused on the original strains. And I've seen that many questions were not related to what we're talking about here today. And as we've been talking such a concrete topic today, I didn't really want to elaborate on small things like oh, how many guppies, how many babies does guppy have? These kind of questions I was trying to leave away from the stream today, guys. I'm sorry about it, but we've had really very concrete topic that we wanted to talk about today. And I think, Adrian, once again, it was your first live stream, but you've done an amazing job, and it was my pleasure being with you and listening to you. And once again, we have I cannot even find. I thoroughly enjoyed this stream. Thanks, guys. Tater Salad, Craig. Got here late. Will this be posted for later viewing? Yes, Craig. This should be up immediately as a regular video when we stop this stream. The thing is, recently, what I'm experiencing because of all the situation that's coming up in the world, it's very high pressure on the YouTube, and many people are creating a lot of videos. So my recent live streams took approximately 2 to 6 hours to upload. So it may happen that it's not going to be available like in 2 hours. But if you're going to copy the link that you have right now from the top, you're going to be able to open it. But for new people, they may not be able to open it in like 2 or 3 hours, but it's definitely going to appear tomorrow, or maybe even today. Like in 2 to 6 hours, it's going to be there as a video. And Adrian, I'm also going to most likely cut small parts of this, maybe as a little promotion for this stream for people to find it out in a little bit shorter, entertaining video. But once again, guys, thank you very much for all of your kind words. This was one of the most amazing streams I've ever done. I've really enjoyed it. I'm gonna go ahead and talk a little bit about my tanks when we're gonna finish here. But before I'm gonna start spoiling this stream, Adrian, thank you very much. This definitely was not the last time people seeing you on a screen. We're gonna do this definitely much more often if people are gonna be willing to listen to us and willing to watch our videos. And if you guys want to support Adrian, go down below, find that Facebook page, and make sure that you have a like on that Facebook page. Follow the page and post your pictures. Invite people, invite your Endlers friends over. Post your pictures of Endlers. I've posted there many times, my own pictures. And Adrian, you're very active. You're administrator of the page. You're very active on that page. Also, I've seen you many times replying to people's pictures and questions and all that kind of stuff. So I know there is a lot of negativity going on as well in a hobby of people for whatever reason, but that's always going to be there, and you should not be bothered by that because you're an amazing man, and what you're doing is absolutely astonishing, and it was real honor having you here today. So thank you very much, and hope to see you again soon.
Okay, thank you all, and all stay safe and be good.
Bye-bye.
Have a good.
That was Mr. Adrian Hernandez, guys, the person who introduced Poecilia Wingei into the hobby, more or less. We all know that it was John Endler who found them out first, but these were the guys who went into the locations that John Endler was describing, collected the black bar Endlers and many other strains. And again, Adrian is amazing person, pursuing, still having the registry of all people who ever purchased fish from them. So it's one big nerdy network, to put it that way, of people who have the original stock of Endlers Livebearer. And you don't need to really have the original stock to have Endlers. You can just have whatever of them. They're absolutely amazing nano fish and so amazing fish to have. And once again, guys, go down, find Adrian's Facebook page and show him some love over there. And we have like 8 minutes to go, so I'm really gonna quickly jump over how can you support this channel, because this is the only way. And we can see that once again, I need to put that up. The Chubby Guppy has super chatted $20. So the Chubby, you can choose one of the tanks that I'm going to be showing right now that you're going to basically sponsor, and you're going to have a live update with me on that tank whenever you want on Instagram. So you can support one of my tanks, guys, and support this channel and support what I'm doing. As well, if you haven't seen already, I've posted the vlog video today, which I've kind of started doing this vlog because I really enjoy that kind of videos. I also still enjoy doing educational videos, and it's gonna still keep coming, especially in the world of Livebearers and guppies and Endlers and all that kind of thing. But I have also other things that I'm showing you in my vlogs, guys. That's more like entertaining part of this channel, but I hope that you're enjoying it. If you haven't seen the last vlog, it's in the description below as well. And let me quickly go through some of the news of my tanks. You can sponsor, again, only 3 tanks because we never got sponsored all 3 of them. So we're going to start with our Fossil Paradise tank, basically our shrimp tank. I've been talking in a vlog and have been feeding this shrimp. It's green neocardina with Mark's shrimp tanks food, and they absolutely love it. There's some nice close-up footage on my recent vlog video with this aquarium and neocardina tank. This is the fossil aquarium. You can see the massive fossil in the top, heavily planted as always. For now, shrimp-only aquarium. We had Tater Salad who sponsored this aquarium, and it's really gorgeous tank. I have to say that it's one of my favorite. And if you're gonna see what is coming into this aquarium fish-wise, because I enjoy having fish in my aquariums, and there are gonna be fish coming into this aquarium, I think you're gonna be mind blown. And it's very interesting fish that I'll be adding into this aquarium. So that was the first aquarium. Let me quickly jump to another one. Again, we only have a couple of minutes, so I'll just quickly jump through the tanks and maybe update you on some things. We have green carpet aquarium with my cross between Snow White and Lazuli Blue Guppies. As I've said, recently I've collected another drop of 13 babies. And what I'm thinking, and I wanted to talk about it at the beginning of the stream, but I didn't want to spoil on this. I also have one pure Snow White male that's the sibling with these 2 females. So what I'm thinking is waiting for one more drop of these 3 guys, then placing Lazuli Blue male. It's the best male that I have back to his Lazuli Blue females, and introducing Snow White male to lazuli blue females. So we're going to have the cross from both sides. So we're going to have the cross of lazuli blue male with snow white females, and also lazuli blue females with snow white male. And we can compare the results. We can compare how it's going. And as I said, their offspring is slowly starting to color up. And the color that's coming in front of, like the color that's starting to show up the most is orange. So it seems like they're genetically getting a little bit back into the coral red genetics that they have inside of them. But it's really interesting that I was really hoping that maybe I'm going to get some white or blue into their bodies. But for now, we have orange. And seeing this fish grow is going to be absolutely amazing. So this is another tank that you can sponsor by just super chatting whatever amount. It can be dollar, whatever, it doesn't matter. And then you're going to have a live update on this particular aquarium. And as I said, it's going to be very interesting seeing this fish grow up. And let me know, what do you think about the reverse cross? If I should try snow white male with lazuli blue females as well. I think it's going to be very interesting. And the last aquarium that we have, and actually that's going to allow me to spoil a little bit guest for the next week, because I'm already in touch with a guest for the next week's stream, and it's going to be very sweet lady this time. And let me see, Cave Aquarium. So my last aquarium that you can sponsor is, again, one that you've seen in my last vlog today as well. It's my bluegrass guppies. It's 12 pairs of bluegrass guppies with 3 vampire plecos L240 in those caves. What I'm currently working is in video of me feeding those plecos, and you guys are going to see what I'm feeding those plecos, and that one is going to be very, very amazing. So stay tuned for that video. But our next week's guest is actually going to be sweet lady who's a biologist who's focusing on catfish and plecos. So next week's live stream is going to be focused on catfish and plecos. So if you're a fan of catfish or plecos, prepare your questions for next week. We're going to have amazing, sweet guest next week, and I'm really looking forward to that. And hopefully I'm going to see a lot of you in the chat as well. So these were the 3 tanks that you can sponsor by super chatting whatever amount. It can be the lowest possible, and then you're going to get the update on the Instagram with me on your particular tank. So that was quickly with me. We have 3 minutes to go. So I'm really quickly going to jump into the chat. Thank you very much, Adrian. That was very useful information. Guppy Development. Once again, Guppy Development, thank you very much for the super chat and for your amazing questions. You've had so really a lot of really great questions. Thank you so much for this. Adrian is true gold gem in this hobby. And that's why he needs your guys' support. And that's why I also wanted to get him into the stream, show him those likes and those nice kind words. And I know that it may be sometimes difficult right now in the internet and seeing all the misleading information. That's what actually I've done as well in some of my videos. I was basically putting out the misleading information about the N class, but I couldn't find any sources to. I do a lot of research before I do any of my videos or before I breed any of my fish or whatever, but I just couldn't find that deep information about Poecilia wingei. And that's why I was so excited to bring Adrian up here, because it's the first video on the YouTube that's actually talking with the original person who introduced Endlers Livebearer into Poecilia wingei into hobby. Tater Salad, I agree. Please come back, Adrian. He's definitely going to come back. Our humble thanks, Adrian, one of the greatest. Yes, he must come back. Awesome, Pat. It was very informative discussion. Thank you both very much for the collaboration. It was my pleasure, guys. As I'm telling you, this discussion was absolutely amazing. Congratulations on the baby shrimp. Thank you very much. Glad you found Rachel O'Leary. Yeah, it was. I really enjoyed some of her videos, and that challenge was absolutely fun. I wasn't sleeping for like 30 hours completing it, but it was really, really great. Pablo, hello to all. I keep some fishes from AdrianHD. You can see all my strains of Poecilia wingei in my blog. Again, amazing breeder. Pablo, let us know where you're from. Jan Christine, great vlog, Poecilia wingei forever. Jan Christine, you're the man. I have majority of my videos about Poecilia wingei from your fish room. You guys go and check Natural Endlers fish room tour It's Jan's Christian Fishroom, and he has approximately 30 aquariums with just Endlers, just different strains of Endlers. And he also now started keeping shrimp. And I think he now has like 15 different aquariums with 15 different types of shrimps. So he's the man, and I'm definitely going to be going there with my camera and bringing you guys some very interesting footage from there. Maybe 1 or 2 more generations. Yeah, I think as well that maybe in like L3 I'm gonna be getting something from the Snow White or something like that. Pat, do you think this is because the lines were pure initially? I don't really know. I cannot really answer that question. I'm sorry. Let's do that one, Pat. Definitely will. Tater Salah, thank you very much for super chat once again. Great stream tonight. Cheers. You guys who super chatted, write me on Instagram which one of the tanks would you like to sponsor, and you can have some sneak peek before any of my videos this week and before the stream next week. So I have to call it, guys. We're already over 2 hours. Thank you so much, every single one, for coming. Once again, I would like to invite you for the next Monday stream that's going to be happening, as always, after Mark's Shrimp Tank stream. And it's going to be with very sweet guests. I hope that everything's going to go well and we're going to be able to deliver this stream, because we all know that with this, getting the guest into stream is hard work. Let me tell you guys, it took me like almost a month to get Adrian up to the screen, but it was definitely worth it. And I'm doing this with all my upcoming streams. I'm already planning streams 2-3 weeks in advance to make sure that I'm going to be able to deliver the guest that I promise. And this sweet lady agreed that she's going to be doing this with us next Monday. So I hope that I'm going to see you here. Thank you very much for coming. And yeah, that's all that I have for you guys today. Take care.